Module 10. This is Module 10. Can you believe we're this far along? Module 10 is emotional metabolism. Emotional metabolism is the heart of emotional sobriety. I think it's easy to think of emotional sobriety as a noun, like a place that we arrive. Oh, I have this in my practice now. I'm all set. I'm good to go. We did our 6 months together. I have my emotional sobriety. Let me go interact with the world. But I suggest that emotional metabolism is the heart of emotional sobriety because it is a verb, it's a process, and it's a lifetime practice. The prompts for this module will be more specific than in some of the modules past, because I want to address, now that we're at a point of deeper comfort with each other, and we have some language around how to receive some of the emotions which might be caught in our systems that we still don't really feel that we have the fortitude to feel, or maybe we're in a position where we feel like we're reaching to feel some things because we want it to be cleared out. We want to go to the emotional dentist's office for that deep clean. But again, we come to the point where I would suggest again that pushing, pulling, and putting are not helpful to the emotional metabolism. Pushing, pulling, and putting are ways that energy that's produced by our identity turbines meets the world. And as we dismantle that identity turbine, we have less of a need to push, pull, and put our energy anywhere. We can just open to it and let it be as it is. And the more we can do that, the more we can meet whatever arrives instead of grabbing for something or pushing something away or pulling, pushing, and putting, really. Like anytime we're doing one of those things, even if it's something culturally sanctioned, like reaching for a goal, grabbing for the brass ring, so to speak, that's still a manipulation of our energy. And it really doesn't serve. And I know it can come up like, well, then where is free will in this? If we're just so completely surrendered, I want to do something. What is the point of me being here if I'm not doing anything? Well, free will is best expressed in terms of this practice, as I facilitate it, as our capacity to be open to do the next right thing, without coming in with a preconceived idea or preference about what that next right thing might look like, but to be completely open to what actually arrives. I don't think it's possible to underestimate the amount of joy in this process. I know it can sometimes sound like giving a lot of things up, and giving up all of the things that we are certain about, like, I am this way, I am that way, this is my name, this is what I do, this is my job, these are my people, this is my house, this is where I live. All of those things have been shown. They show up. And now we come to this point where we have a choice about how we meet them. I hope that makes sense. if we feel the need to keep reiterating something, it's possible it doesn't belong with us. Because true things that truly belong with us will return, they will come back, they will still be with us. But that which needs to be shed, but which we insist on clinging to, will just bring us more pain and suffering. So how do we meet these individual emotional states? Like, when have we felt neglected, right? When have we felt rejected? When have we felt abandoned, betrayed, held, loved, affirmed, shamed, guilty, joyful, grief, devalued, compassion, sad, fearful, angry, humiliated, used? As we come into this home stretch of the course, I want to go more specifically and individually into these emotional states, and to really feel into where are they in the body when we meet them new, when they come up for us in the present, and where are they in the body when they are coming from the past or coming from some future projection. And when they're coming from the past, is there a difference in the body between where we felt it when it actually happened and where we feel it now when we remember it? And can we connect intimately with that place where it's arising now and move that energy lovingly to where it was when it first happened, and let that energy rest there and not pull on that older energy underneath the loving energy that we're landing on it, surrounding it with, the new loving energy that we're able to meet that old trauma with. Can we let that new love surround it so completely that it dissolves? And that might not happen in one sitting. It might be a gradual process, going back over and over again and putting that old sadness, that old grief, that old joy that we feel we'll never feel again. Like sometimes that first love, when we first fall in love and we think, oh my God, how will we ever love like that again? So it's not just the difficult energies that we can get trapped in. It's also the overwhelmingly happy ones. So as these things come up and as we go through some of our practices that we have developed for really meeting our bodies, for really getting in that home space, because the more we can be in an open, grounded, wide, soft home space, the more these things will reveal themselves, the more they'll come to just knock on the door. Because it's almost like they know they'll be let in now. They can, I hate to talk about them as like they're some kind of separate entity, but in some ways they are. It's an older energy that you stored away for later. It's like in a Tupperware somewhere inside your body, in the sort of back of the fridge, not to mix too many metaphors, but sometimes mixing a lot of metaphors is how I can bypass your brain and get into your body. So can we look at that Tupperware with the very old dish in the back of our body fridge and take the lid off and be prepared for it to be stinky and rotten and moldy and still metabolize it. Still know that was our meal. That's our food. That's still something that we might not have to eat it, but we're going to have to find some way to absorb it and metabolize it and let it go. Keep what nourishes and shit out the rest. That's the core of emotional metabolism. You have to take it in completely, intimately, without knowing how you're going to react to it. Because at this point, we can trust that no matter what it brings up, we will be able to meet it from that home space and allow it to work us whatever way it needs to work us without resistance. If we have to shit for 3 days, we shit for 3 days. If we yawn, we yawn. If we burp, we burp. If we fart, we fart. And sometimes when we're moving these old energies, we can quite physically have those reactions. There's a couple times I've done breath work where I've thrown up like there was nothing in me to throw up, but that retching still arrived. And that's another one of those situations where it's like, well, I don't have to know. If no images or clear memories come with an energy that's being released, it behooves us to be compassionate with that and still just bear witness to it as it comes. Just bear witness with grace. And allow that energy to move through us however it needs to move through us, knowing that from that home space, we are okay. And I had deep work to do around shame. Deep work to do around shame. Shame and abandonment and old joys. And then the regret that old joys bring and the nostalgia that old joys bring. And letting all those things just slosh in my belly. Just slosh around. Because there's nourishment there. There's always nourishment there. But there's a difference between being nourished by something and carrying it. One is a clench. Oh, we want to hold on to that. I want to never digest this. I want indigestion around this memory. I'm just going to hold on to it exactly as it was and not let it move through me at all. I'm going to cling to this, hold on to it, clutch at it. Or we can and that's the difference between those two positions is trust. It's trust in who we're becoming. It's trust in the fact that we're still here no matter who we were. And it's an actual enthusiasm for what is being revealed. Instead of being afraid of the unknown, this idea of being at a surprise party, like who knows who will be there, including yourself as the person celebrated. Who knows who you will be by the time you arrive at that first surprise party, and who knows who you'll be when you arrive at the next one, because it is going to be a constant unfolding. That's why the emotional metabolism is so important. And that's why this understanding that not knowing is most intimate, and our capacity to cherish that intimacy, to really meet it with such tenderness and such an open heart, To not clench in the face of not knowing allows shame, guilt, joy, grief, rejection, humiliation, any of those things. They're just another thing in the buffet. And it might not be our preference. It might not be our preference to put that on our plate. But there it is. Oh, it's on our plate. Who put that on my plate? I didn't ask for that. Yeah, well, that's okay. Trust that you'll shit out what doesn't nourish. And that you will fully absorb what does. And let it build who you're becoming. And I think the emotional metabolism frame is so useful because it is so practical, because eating is something that we do every day. Lucky us. So framing meeting trauma, meeting memories, meeting ideas about who we thought we were, the same way we meet a meal, is very pragmatic, very elementary, very basic, and not something to be afraid of. I do this little prayer, sort of. It's called a gata before I eat, and it just reminds me that whatever food I'm eating, even if it's a bowl of popcorn, that that bowl of popcorn is actually both so simple and so vast. There's the person that farmed the popcorn. There's the person that ran the machine that banged the popcorn. There's the rain that fed the popcorn. There's the farmer. There's the person who transported the popcorn. There's the person that put it on the shelf at the supermarket. There's the building of the supermarket. There's the girlfriend of the person that put it on the shelf at the supermarket, who was worried about him because he had to work late putting that popcorn on the shelf at the supermarket. There's the person that washed the floor at the supermarket. There's the person that made my car that enabled me to drive to the supermarket to be able to buy the popcorn. Every single thing that we touch reverberates 10,000 times. And that's why stopping before eating is a way to acknowledge the sacredness of all of those contributions. This little thing, this seemingly insignificant thing like a bowl of popcorn, has interconnections that I've never personally met. But I understand and honor that they're right there in that bowl. The meal gata, as part of my physical practice, really helps me when I come up against one of these things I'd rather not metabolize, right? I come up against feeling shame, right? If I look in that shame, where did that shame come from? And say that shame came from a family member. And then where did that shame, what is the source of the shame in that family member? And then what's the source of the shame in that family member? And at what point does that turn into abandonment or grief or fear? So all of these other energies that come down into this one moment of shame that I'm meeting, and all of the reverberations through my DNA, through through the stories that my ancestors have told themselves about themselves, through their socioeconomic situations, all of these things, the weather, the geography where they arrived at, the geography that they came from, all of those things are funneled into this one moment of shame that I'm encountering. And that enables me to feel both my tininess and my vastness. And it gives me the humility and the courage to meet the moment wholeheartedly, fully grounded and fully embodied. I hope that makes sense. Because at the core of that, at the core of the meal gata, every time I say it, is a deep remembrance and honoring of all that is. That no one thing occurs in isolation. Any particular moment that we're confronting, any particular energy that's arising in our own body is not arising in isolation. In Buddhism, there's also this image of Indra's net. And it's this net that's stretched all the way across all creation, all the realms seen and unseen, all the realms known and unknown, and each being is a jewel, is a node, a jewel node on that net, multifaceted, and so reflecting all the other nodes and reverberating with every tug of the net. And when I say the meal gata before I metabolize a bowl of popcorn, I give myself that pause, that moment of silence to see the net behind the bowl and around the bowl. And to know that I am always a part of that. Not just how it acts on me, but how I act on it. How am I pulling on that net today? What am I reflecting back to the other jewels? So this applies to the food that we eat, the physical food that we eat, and the emotional and spiritual food that we encounter. And that also goes further to include our own thoughts and how our own thoughts generate our emotions. Is the emotional energy we're encountering in this moment that is causing us suffering, is it coming from somewhere inside of our bodies, or is it originating in the identity turbine? Does it have to do with some thwarted preference? Or is it a pure desire arising from our relationship with all that is? And by now in this course, I feel like we will have a better sense and a deeper skill in discernment to be able to feel the difference. Is it coming from up here? Is it coming from that identity turbine? Is there a perpetual hum under it? Or is it bubbling up? Pure and bright, clean. Or is it very entangled? A lot of other things. Are we tangling up the net? Or are we plucking it like a harp string? I do love a good metaphor. I even love a bad metaphor. I love all the metaphors. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope you are tending your emotional metabolism, not gorging on the junk food of preferences, but eating what grows right in your own backyard as it arrives at your gate, as it enters your field. I hope that you can meet all that arises today with love, because that's what you are. Thank you.